40, 50-pound tuna.
Yeah.
And when they're around, there's a lot of blue marlins around. For some reason, they're like the fat kid with the gumdrop, and the M&Ms. They're trying to eat them all in one shot. You'll see the albies start jumping out of the air with their wings out. And we hooked an albie on a charter. And this guy was working for Chris Williams, who worked in Saipan for a lot of years. So he killed a lot of blue marlins. And all of a sudden, the charter's reeling. He goes, "Oh, Mark, the reel's broken. The line's going out." And I'm like, "Oh, here we go."
And how did it start out? Like, what was the origin story?
Too much alcohol.
Really? Okay.
Says if God wanted us to have fiberglass boats, he would have given us fiberglass trees.
It's for fishermen. It's not for taking the wife and the wife's friends.
I think that it's a really, really pretty bit.
And then there was a blur that went by and ended up in the cockpit, as far as if I can remember correctly.
Welcome back to the State of Sport Fishing Podcast. I'm Nick Carullo. I'm joined with me, Anthony Pino, with Hooked Optics and captain of the Blood Money. Tonight, our guest is Mark de Cabia, former captain of the Canyon Runner and current captain now of the Rebel. Known Mark for a long time. Thanks for joining us, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Well, it's good to see you in person, not just, screaming at you guys to go grab the leader as fast as you can. But, I got to give you credit. I mean, I follow you, watch all the tournaments, nothing but congrats, hard charger.
Thank you, man.
You don't accept failure, which I like. That's, there's no quitting. There's a lot of 329s, which is good. So we want to see, so bottom of the ninth, bases loaded,
Yeah.
That's where that's what you thrive on. That's what I thrive on too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, fuck, we first met, 18 years ago or something?
18. So we were young. We were both young.
A baby.
Yeah. Yeah. We were both kids, and I was running the Canyon Runner down there in Miami Beach, and met you. You were up with Ray and Brett and Alex and outside Monty's, and we were definitely really young then.
Yeah.
I remember I was, who would give a 21-year-old kid to run a boat in Miami? I remember going down there, and, I didn't listen to anybody, like, "Oh, let's go fishing," and we caught plenty of stuff down there, but fishing was a lot different than it is now.
Yeah.
So at least we had the sorting then. That was real good and fun.
Yeah. Those half day, what was it? We did a half day sailfish trip and then right into the night go sorting.
Yeah. You do or 3/4 or half. Yeah. Do a half and then go sorting at night, but that's when we could catch them at night consistently. You go out, catch one or two, or get a couple bites at least, and you're back at 1, 2 o'clock and sleep for a couple hours. Then 7 a.m. would come. Yeah, it would be, if ever getting hot face, it's, get up again at 6. Okay. And then the charter not knowing you were up all night, and by the time you got done cleaning, now it's
a couple of painkillers at Monty's.
A few number 4s, right to the right to the number. Just give me one number 4. We're good to go.
Yeah, 2 PK4s to go, please.
To go. Yep. Oh, we'll watch the boat. Not Shamia tonight because the dew was so strong. But it was fun. It's part of growing up. Most people, I remember I thought I'd never leave where I'm at. When I grew up as a kid, and I got an opportunity to do that, I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll go move to Miami. It's an interesting place to grow up and cultural, and so it's something everyone should do. Is always, recommendation is for any young person in the industry is travel as much as you can, learn as much as you can.
Yeah.
No matter where you go. Don't just, there's a lot of people that are just trying to get that big job, but you have an opportunity to meet people. I mean, you and I met 18 years ago. Now. We're doing this, and same as Anthony. I've known Anthony and Anthony's boss for a long time. So it all comes around. But most people, they see that in the long run, and you ever get jammed up and you need a part or something like that, everyone helps everyone else out. So that's the way it should, the industry should be.
Yeah.
Not, trying to be better than somebody else, or, all about working together.
Absolutely.
Which is a big part of it. And that's something that we preach no matter what. We're doing our seminars and always working together, because you're always going to be on one end of the tow line. We always say,
yeah,
so you're going to be towing someone, or you're going to be getting towed where I'm fishing, and that's 100 and something miles home. What we want to talk about tonight, fellas.
Mark, man, tell us about the Rebel program, dude. I mean, you guys have that 52 Viking and little engine that could, and you guys go hard, man.
Yeah. So we started out with a 45-foot Viking, and right off, I got off the Canyon Runner, and he was one of my better charters, the owner, Mike Tucci. And, You know, he's like, how would you like to move home? We had that 45 for a little while. And I'm like, all right, this thing ain't cutting it. So got the 52, and the 52 is an absolute beast. And, you know, the thing that sold me on that 52, that particular hull, and those years is, you know, same as the original Miss Annie. And those guys went hard. And I just remember being in the mid-Atlantic and just charging. I mean, I'm like, all right.
Dude, there was a day we were in the mid-Atlantic. We were up outside the Wilmington and it started to blow southwest like 15 to 20. And it was me when we were, or us on the Blood Money on the 56 Viking, the Let It Ride and the 64 Viking and the Miss Annie. And it was pretty shitty. And Randy had caught like a big tuna to go away, right? So he left like 25 minutes maybe earlier. And I was like, all right, we'll catch him. So I just hopped behind the Let It Ride. And we never caught him. Like we were doing, you know, I was like, where is he? That thing was amazing. I mean, you know, it's just all those Vikings. I mean, the Canyon Runner, that thing should go in a museum at some point.
It's definitely got the most hours. I mean, I did a 12,000 hour tour myself. I mean, we've done a lot. It's a lot. I mean, this thing has just proven itself time and time again for me. I fished next to when Newt was up here for a little while. He was running 62, and I was keeping right up with him, and I actually went right by him. You know, and it's just, it's a very safe boat, you know, like it's low, it's got a lot of weight, trolls very, very well, backs up well. It's just one of those good hulls. You know,
do you think that the fact that like it's an express boat and has a lower center of gravity lends it to like what you guys do in fishing overnight, and it's a little bit better at night than say a bridge boat would be as far as the rocking? Well,
when I first got the boat, I thought we were getting a bridge boat. Yeah. And so literally that when I pulled up to the marina with the owner, I'm like, well, where is it? Well, that's it. And I'm like, oh man. At first I thought I'd hate it, but I'm kind of hesitant about getting another boat. We're in the process right now of what we're going to do with this boat. You know, about basically gutting it and starting over again, repower, doing, you know, going through the whole thing or getting something else. And I can't really see myself doing it because I've done so well on this thing and it's very comfortable. You know, it actually, the rougher the weather, you feel even safer, which, I mean, I don't mind rough weather personally because I grew up commercial fishing. I actually thrive off people who don't want to go when it's rough, but it's very stable, even when like a real 3 to 4 foot blowing 20, and you're not really like getting tossed or anything like that. Nothing really breaks. You know, you don't get those bruises on the thigh from smashing in the chair all day. And but it's we have it set up pretty well. We have a giant fish box and a thing and cockpit controls. So as soon as I get a bite from the center, I jump in the cockpit. So I'm with the guys the entire time, which works out very well because I leader and gaff everything on my side. I have a jog lever back there. And so I can turn the boat on a dime. I can back up on a dime, and you know, and if still fish or anything like that, I'll just run up in the tower and I'll drive from the tower. So like we see, it is a disadvantage though being at that helm inside when you're fighting anything.
Yeah.
And I went on a lot of different express boats. I looked at that 61 Osprey that Garlington and Jason Carey ran for a little while. And I didn't really like, you know, you can't see the corners, you can't see, and the Vikings the same way. It's very tough. You see me driving my boat, I'm in the tower 90% of the time, driving in and out, docking, no matter what, because you could just see what's going on.
Do you fish out of the tower too, typically?
I've been fishing more out of the tower. The problem is my tower is small.
Yeah.
So meaning that all my electronics are downstairs. I only have one radio upstairs. You know, our fishing's a little bit different than, you know, using, you know, I'm also using my eyes, but, you know, looking at the sounder and looking at, you know, transducers and the squid and everything else. I want to make sure I have everything locked in, and my tower legs are kind of full with all the wires. So that's part of my project as well, you know, because you could definitely do better out of the tower, but I don't have enough capability.
Yeah, you'd have to build like a big box for like all the screens that you could need at this point, and then you also have to have enough space in the tower legs to get the wires.
I was thinking about like, you know, kind of how, you know, I have to put the sonar dropping from the top of the tower, put the LPs somewhere. You know, I told Tim at LP, he's got to make me something, you know, even though he made that new bracket for the bridge boats. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? You know, so I got to figure out something like that. There's a lot of configuring on what we're going to do, but trolling it's good. You know, I can see what's going on all the time. It helps, but you know, being lower center of gravity, I don't get my ass kicked as much. And especially when we're doing this, you know, early morning trolling 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and trying to catch big eyes and stuff like that. It's you know, you want all your. We all have these great electronics and stuff, and you need it all when you're relying on it all. Yeah. So, but it's It's nice though, but I can't picture myself now. I was like, I always wanted a bridge boat. I'm like, just give me the 62 or give me a 64. But along with a bigger boat, I have a steady crew and it's, steady mates and good guys that fish for me. I don't have a rotating crew. So everyone knows their role and that's, it's a fluid machine over and over. So, but it's, as you know, Anthony, our fishing's a lot different than fishing anywhere else in the world. And
a special breed of fucking stupid, dude.
Yeah. Dusty's pretty funny about that. We're a special breed. Like, if we only had to go 60 miles, I'd be going 60 miles in reverse, and I'm all about, I save time and, my whole life I've been commercial fishing. So it's all about making time. So if even it's rough, I'm like, we'll go 10 knots. It's only going to be 7 hours, or it's going to be a 12-hour jog, or, and some of these guys are like, it's, whatever, 4 days to the Dominican or whatever. I'm like, 4 days, that's easy. I could do 4 days by myself.
Yeah.
Just jog down there. Who cares? Nothing breaks at 10 knots. I can tell you that. Everything breaks at 30 knots.
I'm looking at that last leg going down there going, we're going to do a lot of that in the dark because there's no set. We're not going to go very much faster than in the daylight.
No, you just take your time and it's a mental thing. It's all mental. Everyone wants to rush and be there, but it's a hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Because obviously, for all the listeners, like I'm fishing up in the Northeast Canyons, which we have now we're fishing minimum of 90 miles and as far as 160 miles in open ocean. So I want to make sure I have enough time. So we leave, in the evening hours, we jog for 10, 12 knots for a little while and most of the night and then pick it up and run, wherever we got to run to.
Yeah. What's your typical day? Like if you had what's your fishing schedule like when you leave the dock, or what time do you leave the dock? Because I feel like the further north you go, like you get up towards like the guys at a Manasquan are lunatics, and then you guys go even further typically. So it's
I got my college schooling in Manasquan, so I got But we're pretty much lunatics. But the typical trip, some days we have two different trips that we leave in the evening. We leave at like 6 o'clock when we're just going troll fishing. Yeah. We leave at like 6 p.m., 7 p.m. We run for about 2 hours. You get 60 miles offshore, and then we'll chug the rest of the way wherever we got to go. So we get there at 3:30 in the morning. And because there's a lot of lobster gear and stuff like that, you got to avoid that. And, you shouldn't be hammering down going 30 knots in the dark.
Yeah.
So we get there first light. We'll fish all day, fish till the sun goes down, see actually what's going on. If we got to stay another day, the way that fishing's been for us the last 4 years, we're done in the first day now. The fishing's so good. It's just been a consistent thing that the general fish of, path of fish is shifted north.
Yeah.
Obviously you could see that from the tuna fishing slowing down where you guys, and up by us, it's just call it a supermarket sweep.
Wow.
But we will fish all day. And then, if we're done, say 6, 7 o'clock, I'll just chug for a while and I'll let all my guys take a nap, and then I'll go stretch out for an hour or two. And then I'll run the boat the rest of the way. And just, if the owner's tired, we'll just 10 knot at home. It's, you're no rush.
Yeah.
I don't like running in the dark or anything like that. If you don't have time, to do that, it's, you shouldn't be fishing that far anyway. So
what are you typically targeting when you fish,
So like once you get basically north, I would say where you are.
Well, obviously your accent pretty much tells us what you try to catch.
And actually, you want to know something? It's changed a lot. Yeah. I'll tell you this, it has changed a lot. I will say this, like after going bill fishing, it does grow on you.
Yeah.
I love killing tunas more than any person on the planet. And that's all I think about it. And I grew up fishing for dollars. It's different. I grew up, and I'm still a full-time commercial fisherman. So I want to catch as much stuff as humanly possible. So thinking that I got to pay for the trip, the opposite way that I'm thinking about, okay, we got to go catch 20 elephants because I could sell them. And then 4 or 5 big eyes. I'll stop. I'll catch my giant bluefin on the way home and catch 400 or 500 pounds of dolphin to pay for the fuel. And I'm good to go. That's the way I think about things in my head. But in general, we're going tuna fishing. And then as the summer progresses, we'll go try to catch a blue marlin, try to catch a white. And, but the weird thing is that as much as I go, we don't see as many whites, even as what you guys see.
Yeah.
I'm still fishing dink baits. I'm still fishing a dredge. I'm still fishing a chain. But for some reason, the fish I don't know if they don't roll with the tunas anymore.
But I find that really interesting because all I do is like literally like look at the sat shots, and I typically when I get a good shot, I look from Cape Hatteras up to where you are, and I look for those big eddies that come down from the north. But because basically once they get, you know, sometimes in the Hudson but once they get south below the Hudson, they seem to have marlins in them. But you know, when I hear somebody when I read a report or hear somebody getting like 5, 6 white marlin bites up,
that's a lot.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, first
lot.
of all, they're not fishing for them, and typically, and second of all, they're not, for some reason, like you said, there's not a hole. They're not really schooled up and ready to rock up there, you know. But as those eddies come all the way down to our, man, I just wait for those things. You know, there's a couple up there now spinning, and I'm looking at them. Yeah, whether they survive or not.
I don't know if the fish come in from that way. Yeah. Personally, you know, it's just, we don't see, like, I did 20 something overnighters and 5 or 6 day trips. I only caught a few white strong, you know, when we wanted to catch them. But the first fish I caught in 2021 in May was, you know, I hooked a blue marlin out in Atlantis. Like, that's not normal. Like, by no means. We never caught blue marlins early.
Is that because the water's nice, blue, and warm, or is it?
I think it's the LX. We have a lot of squid now. I think we have a lot of food around. And I think our whole dynamic of fishing, and even your fishing, Nick, has changed, you know, tenfold. It's a lot. You know, the first 2 fish that we saw in 21, I caught a dolphin and a blue marlin in May when the water's 45 degrees inshore. And then it's 66 on the bank. That's not, I don't think that's normal by no means.
Yeah. You were running out to when you saw that water in May, you were running, it was like you were looking for 66 degree water at that time. I
can tell you this from doing it over and over and fishing in the spring. You just need anything above 60. That is steady 60, because most of the fish live on the bottom. And obviously we all know that from daytime sword fishing, and now we're catching a lot of big eyes on the bottom, and, you know, it's changed a lot. So I don't think it personally matters. I think if the water's warm enough, the eddy's there, if you see that eddy like you do, you know, the fish are in it. The surface, obviously, because the fog, everything changes, but they're at that either deep scattering layer just off the bottom, and they're sitting there just chowing on the squid. Yeah. And when they find the food, they're just, you know, they're actually just get lazy and they just lay there in the tide. So it's, you know, there's a lot to go, but not all the times it's good in May. You know, you really want to time. It's all, I believe, this is going to sound crazy. I catch horseshoe crabs. Yeah. So I catch them obviously for bait, and then we sell them for leukemia research. Mm-hmm. Something that hit part of your heart at home. My brother had leukemia growing up. So it's one of those things that, you know, if I could help any kid, I spent a lot of time still in Kettering growing up. So if that's something that, you know, I'm like, oh, I can go kill something that, you know, I can help kids, and I'm like, oh, bring it on. But something like that, something that hasn't changed in millions of years. Mm-hmm. It's very cyclic. Like, I still think fish show up on a certain time, and they know certain moons. You know, like a white marlin knows that September moon. Yeah. They're going to be in the Wilmington to the Wash.
They're going to be somewhere between, I'm convinced that somewhere between Cape Hatteras and the Hudson, or, you know, just above the Hudson. But that being said, like, it hasn't been, the September hasn't been that great.
No, you know, we had that big blast. That big blast 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah,
that was the last of the incredible
it's declined, stuff. You know, but before that, you guys and John, you guys were rim racking them.
Yeah,
you know, and then, you know, in September down south, either tinker fishing or wherever you guys were catching them, but or trolling. But I'm sure, like, the sales, they probably move on the moon too. Every fish, if you really analyze when you get your big bites and when the fish start charging with the tide, you know, there's a lot more to it than that. You know, so I think if we have a mid-June moon and an eddy, we're going to, you know, like this year is going to be, I can tell you, it's going to be a rock in June. It's just, it set itself up for already. We had a rock in spring, but our fishing's changed tenfold. We used to look forward to July and August and September tuna fishing, and now it's actually the opposite. End of July, August, beginning of September are fucking terrible. Yeah. And, you know, now it's, you know, basically June, first part of July up by us. And I would say if it's too good, everyone gets spoiled, you know, because, you know, you catch this wreck stuff every day and they go out and then they catch nothing. You know? Yeah. So, I mean, look at your sail fishing, Nick, right? You used to go steady. Now it's just these big blasts of fish and then nothing. And it's just, I mean, you guys have caught the card on the river. You know, that last tournament, it was just happened to be a big day, you know. Yeah. I was watching, and then I fished a couple of days before that. It was just a grind, you know. Yeah. For some reason,
I just talked to a guy at the boat show saying, asked him how Isla was, and he's been down there. Awful. He's like, he said it's horrible. And I'm like, well, it's horrible here in South Florida, so don't really worry about it.
Yeah. Well,
it's not getting the push. And when the push comes, the tournament season's over for us. And then the charter guys are having the best fishing of the whole year, just charter fishing. Why, while there's no tournaments going on.
I can tell you this, and obviously I'm not from around by you guys, but obviously the fish go wide. Anywhere south of that Loran Tower, I could just looking in the driving around in the dark, the amount of sharks that are there. There's no way. I just think the fish come and whatever they feed, obviously you have a rough day, they come in there, they push the sardines in or whatever they do, you guys get them going in the shallow water and then they disappear. But I just think they know attrition wise that we can't go south here off the breakers or we're just going to get mowed down.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you just watch every video on Instagram. It's every local charbo. Like, we don't have a shark problem. Obviously that's up and down the whole coast from basically, I don't know, you guys probably just barely see in Ocean City, right?
This was the first year that it was like when we were catching some tunas in this late September that we were getting, I got covered up a couple times white marlin fishing. And next thing you know, then we didn't know what was going on until it was too late, but we were like, oh, like the guys were putting more baits out and they were getting bit. And then they like all our stuff and they ended up all being sharks, and then one followed up and like, we were like, oh man, like half of these ones we were getting on the drift, we thought were tunas on the drift bites. They were not, they were sharks.
The sharks were just laying back.
Yeah. They were eating. Yeah. It was pretty, that couple days when it was as bad as I'd ever seen it. We get, if the fishing's really good, it's not uncommon to get a couple shark, but this was like, I was like, we're not going to sit here and feed sharks. We're just going to go back.
Yeah. I'll go sit home. I got no business in that,
Well, and now what we're seeing too, especially like in that Palm Beach, Stewart, breaker, if you're not seeing the sharks, you're not going to catch the sailfish because the sharks are only around the sailfish.
Yeah.
And it's fucked up. So if you put your fucking kites up and you're fishing and you're not marking sharks or seeing sharks, you're not going to catch shit.
Yeah.
Wow. It's fucked up.
That's just something being an outsider. I did a lot of shark fishing growing up, and that's just going to get worse because the natural fish are just going to know. I had one good day off Stewart trolling about a month ago. We caught 8 singles, and I'm like walking and I'm marking stuff. And I'm like, oh, they got to be sails and sharks, and the fish are just taking they're out in 40 fathoms. They're just going deeper and deeper and deeper. And you're getting more bites. And then up inside, there's just nothing there. I think either they come down from Fort Pierce and they come in and they must hook in like for a second and then, shoot down the Fowey or Triumph or wherever they go from there, because there are a lot of sharks down that way too, or
they're more than normal.
Yeah. And let me tell you, I've caught a lot of sharks commercial fish. Those are large animals.
Yeah. Yeah, they're real ones.
I've applied multiple times for a research set-aside permit, and I will gather up every person on this podcast to come help me. If I get approved, there will be a lot of people, be like, I'll bring one of my commercial boats down. I put a...
You could just set one in Oregon Inlet. People would be you would have volunteer crew members, dude.
Get Charlie Locke and Salvation guys. I could put a pretty Avenger team together to go mow these things right down. I can tell you that. I'm all about that. But the problem is they're all protected. We see sharks now in New York that I've never seen black tips and spinners my entire life. And, we have whales everywhere. It's Ocean Planet right in front of my inlet every day. We have those spinners. You just watch out and people think they're porpoises. I'm like, no, that's a shark, don't go swimming. No. And we have a lot of white sharks and we have, the amount of creatures that we have now because of the upward shift is, we have a lot of these, pogies or menhaden bunkers, whatever you want to call them. There's just clouds of them sitting around.
You have tons of them there?
Oh, you could, tons isn't even the word. They have a couple directed fisheries. We have a fish kill that happens every year. It's like 3 or 4 million pounds die in our bay. They go scoop them out. Oh yeah. It's right in the heart of the Hamptons. So the town will pay you any exorbitant amount of money to get them out of the, but it's crazy. Some of the stuff, the fishing, is just evolved. You protect one thing and obviously
the other thing first,
there's no right way to balance everything. And obviously we've all seen changes in all of our different fisheries and how it affects it. We have more dolphin around, the mahis up here than, it's crazy, I look at the landings and I have one of my commercial boats mahi fishing during the summer because they can go out and make it a real trip.
Wow.
Who would have thought that in New York?
Yeah, for sure.
And then, yes, the guys in Florida, they can't catch them in the summer. You know, hasn't been that good in the summer.
We didn't have them. We haven't had them very thick for the last couple of years. You know, I felt like, you know, August, September, you know, you could go out and, you know, get eaten up by white marlin fishing, and they haven't been very prevalent. And honestly, like, I feel like that has a correlation with the white marlins too. I feel like, you know, when there's a, you know, not a ton of mahis, but just enough to annoy you, there's white marlins around too. But it's interesting that it's interesting you say it, that it's that good up there, you know.
It's beyond good. We, you know, like, we just go from pot to pot and we just go hammering down.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, it's commercial fishing. It's a little bit different, and you got to sell them all, and they have a short shelf life. So it's not as good as everyone thinks. You know, it's a lot more work. But it's, you know, the fact that they're not in Florida as thick as they are, because I can just tell by the landings, and then they're up here.
Has the grass been bad? Is the grass bad up there?
We only get grass when we get those August hurricanes.
Okay.
That's when the grass shows up, theoretically. Gotcha. Like, we don't really have grass when the eddy comes. Okay. And when the eddy rolls in, and most of the eddies the last couple of years have rolled in off Hydro, Beach, Atlantis, and it rolls down the bank and kind of rolls down toward you. And that's what you want. But we don't get until we have those, like, you know, hurricane, that's, you know, storm of the century type thing.
Yeah.
And then you go out the first trip and there's a giant swell and there's grass everywhere.
Yeah, gotcha.
And then the fishing changes. It's always the same time of year, that Labor Day weekend storm.
Mm-hmm.
And but the grass could kill us. You know, you can't, there's certain days you can't fish, just like you guys. You know, it's Florida.
Last couple of years, it didn't seem like it was that bad, you know.
Well, you know, we're gonna get plagued by it, just because, you know.
Well, he's going to DR next month, and
good luck with that.
He might see something.
A little bit of grass. Better bring about 50 pulleys, you know. A lot of ball bearings, but it's changed. But the fishing, you know, we have very good fishing now. It's you know, for your tunas and for all varying peoples, even people just starting off. Mm-hmm. You know, fishing, the inshore fishing for tunas has been very, very good. Bluefins and yellowfins. So
bluefin, the giants have made a pretty stunning recovery.
Yeah, I actually feel bad for them. They got mowed down this year.
Did they?
They were, Nick. We were fishing a mile and a half from the Statue of Liberty.
Wow.
At one point. Yeah. So basically, every person of human society with a boat could go catch one. All right. And I pulled up, I refused to go down there because I'm on the east end of Long Island. So I'm like, I can't go down there. I'm not going with all the boats. And it's just like South Florida, 250 boats on a given day, because everyone from a 16-foot Carolina skiff, there's people on kayaks with big rods. And I'm like, I'm not going down there. I'm not doing it. I'm not getting involved, all these people. And then I finally gave in.
There you go.
I gave in. Fuck, I couldn't take it anymore. And I'm pulling in, and I went on the roughest day I could possibly imagine. There's still 40 boats. And I pull up, and there's a sea ray, a 42-foot sea ray called the Gumad. Okay. Blue, reeling in a giant tuna. All right. They straight gaff it, take 2 ratchet straps, probably from Harbor Freight, ratchet strap this thing to their swim platform, and off they go in front of it. All right. You want to talk about being humbled, and I'm there, all right leaders, not getting a bite. I'm like, okay, this is about it. This is about where I lose my mind.
Oh, wow.
You know, and we finally call. I just, you know, everyone's, you know, I was so grieving. I'm like, guys, you got to do this, change this. And you just put anything out in the dirty water, put a bunker out at 60 feet, and you went right off.
Yeah. How dirty is that water?
You can't see on your 18-foot floral leader. The swivel's on the reel. Okay. So it's 2 or 3 wraps. You can't see your bait.
Wow.
It's not even green. I don't even know the color, you know. It's there's definitely a Crayola crayon that's made for that color, but it's and then it's comical. We had no clue why the fish went in there, and they showed up in May, and they never left till the end of September.
Wow. And
it was just every day for months, you know. And I mean, from literally 50 pounders to 800 pounders. So, you know, it's the access to that fishery, which is going to come back to bite us eventually, because a lot of fish weren't logged or anything like that. You know, if more people were logging them, we would have a more lobby in our fishery, because I sit in a lot of state meetings and Fed meetings, and, you know, they need to know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, which is a pretty big thing, but it was just a comical thing. Everyone, you got to go down there. I'm like, I'm not going down there. I don't care what you say. I'll go catch my own fish all by myself out east. But it's also changed our fishery a lot, because we have this inshore fishery now. Bluefins, like I said, bluefins and yellowfins. And in a canyon, there's not that many boats anymore.
Yeah.
You know, It's just me and a couple of guys. It's me and Teddy. Most of the time, it's me and Teddy and one or two other boats.
That's awesome. Should come up there for a weekend one day.
You got to come. I tell Pete when it's good, you got to come up and, I'm sure you'll catch plenty of whites. And I'm sure, Nick, you would somehow find there is one or two sales every year. I've seen one, but, you would like it. Anytime you want to come up, you would, if you like your tunas.
I feel like Nick needs to see a big eye bite, like a good cover up, man. I just feel like it's a good.
If you want to fight them, you'll be fighting me for the wheel, but I'll let you throw the harpoon if you want.
I'll fight one.
Yeah, it's we have a couple different fisheries up with the big eyes too, and big eye fishing's fun because it's they're aggressive. You hook 3, 4, 5 at a time, and from 150 to 250. There's nothing cool. It looks like you dropped Peter Griffin from the sky.
Yeah.
When they it's one of the most addicting things. And I'll wait 20 hours in one spot for one bite. And there's a few of us up here that, that's all we do. That's all I want to catch. I don't want to be bothered with anything else. And because when it does happen, it's definitely different than anything you've ever seen, Nick. It's, when they come crashing and they'll miss a value, they make, a sinkhole, and you're like, what was that? Where you're trolling within the pile of whales, and we troll a lot in the pile of whales in a couple spots, and you're right with them. And all of a sudden, we troll a lot of swimming plugs, and a rod just gets incinerated off. So it's but like I said, anytime you want to come up, I'll let you reel one in. And,
please.
Come up this summer. It's fun. It's a lot different, and most people, that don't travel, like Anthony knows, we're going 100 miles one way. It's a different type of person than going 30 or 40.
It's probably best that it's a seasonal type fishery because to be able to do that year round like that, I feel like it's probably better that we don't have the opportunity to do that all year, because we would just run ourselves into the ground. Yeah.
Well, it would be hold them and fold them, but I think the way the fishing's changed, we're catching tunas almost every month here now. I mean, it's still good here in January if you want to go. I mean, I think in another 7-8 years, I think we're going to have just because, ocean's warm, the warming and currents, and it's going to change.
The water out front of Ocean City is like nothing I've ever seen right now. Yeah. It's like 68 degrees. The chart says it's blue, and I feel
think about how many bluefins are on that edge.
Dude.
Yeah, you just get spooled every, you just go right through every piece of mono, everything you have. But, then I saw yesterday, they're down the Keys already. There's just big wads of them. They're coming through.
Yeah.
There's a couple guys that saw them yesterday, and I'm like watching Instagram, and I'm like, oh, give me a dart, please. Just a couple of them were like barn door. If you throw and you're fast, you could probably get one.
Yeah.
But they're just traveling through. But it goes to show you the fishery is thriving for those things.
Yeah.
Which is good. But
would you say that it's kind of a conservation or a management success story to a point, or you think
it definitely is? But what I see, and I was looking, and I'm sure you two guys running boats, I look for the future. I'm not looking for, I'm already planning on what I'm doing every trip this year and trying to be steps ahead. But I think it's not good because we don't see a couple size classes that we should be seeing. We don't see those 60-inchers, 60 to 70-inch fish, which is approximately 100, 160, 170. And they didn't have a lot of them up north either.
I got you.
So there's a lot of 500-pounders around, which everyone's like, oh, this is great. 800-pounders, 900-pounders, even some big blimps in the bay that Brett catches. And, there's not a lot of that in-between size, which isn't good.
Yeah, it's almost like there was just a good spawning condition somewhere and they all survived, like something like that maybe.
Yep. I mean, look, the one, you have a big fishery off Oregon Inlet now, and just those pictures that you could see, just big wads of fish going by. I mean, that's what you see on basically a 175 Airmar. That's a little cone.
Yeah.
You turn your sonar on, there's going to be about 2 billion of them there, pinned on the bottom. So it's, but it's good and bad, but as long as enough people know about the future and how we got to limit it, you would hook one blue marlin fishing. Like I know Richie Barrett caught one a couple of years ago offshore there, and they're coming through later and later.
That's what I was asking. Like 2 years ago, 220, we had acres of them while we were, and there was incredible white marlin fishing. I would say incredible, but really, really good white marlin fishing. And then there was an acre of bluefin just kind of out there, and we were like, don't go over there. And then this year in the Jimmy Johnson fishing outside the Hudson, I got walloped by a couple of white marlin fishing. Thankfully, they all went away. But
you want to stay away from that Hendrickson if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
There's a lot that they live. I can tell you, they live there. You know, they have spots. Just like Nick, you got spots where if someone said you need to go catch me a sailfish, I'm sure you got a couple edges and stuff like that and numbers. And you know, there's one or two residents that always live there. And you know, we have. That's what we found with the canyon fishing. Now it's become so steady. It's becoming the fish live on certain spots year after year after year. You know, and for some reason why they go there, or who knows? It's just you know, the families of herds of fish that just go there from the dawn of time. And that's why I think it happened with that fishery off New York City. That's the way it used to be 30 years ago. And a couple of them from the last of the Mohicans went in there, and that's what they knew. You know, that was their normal path 30 years ago. And they, you know, it's like, they're like that. Remember, I'm sure we're all close in age, the game Lemmings growing up. There was a computer game, one of the first computer games. And Lemmings, and when one followed the other one. I think that's what the Tunas do over time. And, you know, they have a scout, you know, just like the sales. I'm sure there's scouts that come in, find the sardines, and then you got the big piles of them. You could almost predict when the fish are going to come and when they're going to bite, you know, and you pre-fishing, you probably see that, how it all comes together. You know, you might not have a good day the first day, but you see it's all coming together, and you're going to want to be right there the next day.
Yeah.
So it's all of our fisheries. It's how it's all related, you know, no matter, I mean, all three of us are in three different areas, and it's all the same equation of, and how you put it all together. Which is, I would like to run only 20 miles though. Be nice. You know? 30 miles, you know, be real good, but it changes everybody. You know, it's not for everyone up here, which is good. You know, like you said, if we had a 12-month fishery, we'd have a, you know, problem, and there would be a lot more, you know, the qualified captain Instagram would be broken. Probably. It would just be hammered. It would just be crushed with people. And, you know, it's also dangerous. People don't realize, you know, because the water goes from sometimes 40 degrees to 60 degrees to 75. And you have like these hard wind vectors where you get in the hot water, it's blowing 30, and it's rough, real rough. Short wave periods, and you get fog out there. And the fog is, you know, Nick, you don't have to deal with fog too much, but fog is something that you can't teach anyone to navigate, and it will rattle most people, you know. And that's a disadvantage of the boat that I run now, because once, you know, we're in the fog, you know, I'm inside all that glass, like heavy glass. Oh man, I just put 2 rain jackets, and I'm like, all right, I guess we're going to the tower. You know, one big tournament that we won, Montauk Challenge tournament, which is a tuna tournament up here. I want to say in 2018, we won a couple of years in a row. 2018, we rolled in the fog, in the dark, and we put them out. It looked good. I'm like, okay, everything looks good. And fog lifts, and like you just see the boats appear. You know, like David Hasselhoff, you know, center console hammering down toward me. I'm like, oh God, you know. And I go on my own. I catch my own fish and catch a nice big. I catch a 225, 230, throw them in the boat. And I'm like, well, that's him. That's our winner. You know, that's the one we want. And I picked up, and I fished another spot just because I didn't want people to know where I was fishing. So tuna's really, big eyes don't move too far. You know, where they are in the morning is where they are in the evening. So I'm like, oh, I can't have this called in. People know I'm here. So I literally lift my riggers up and, you know, put the thing at 1900 and ran the next canyon down, put them back out. And then, you know, I told a couple people, oh, no, you know, they just assumed I was in a different spot. So that night goes on, and I'm like, we're trolling, and no one's got any bites, and then the fog comes, like we call it black fog, where you can't see. You walk out back, and, you know, everything's wet. You can't see anything. You know, you having lights on just hurts you. So I'm like, oh man, this is not good. This is not going to end well. You know, and I'm like, you know what? We're out of here. And I drove home. I remember about 20 miles inside, and I was so nervous because we had the tournament. I knew it was going to be a winner. You know, definitely a couple $100,000 fish. So I'm like, I sat in the tower, and I just drove in the fog, like white knuckled for a couple hours, you know, and I'd come downstairs, take a break. And I was like, obviously nervous and excited, but trying to navigate through that and through shipping lanes, and it's definitely could change you. It's a lot different than most people are used to. It's not a open ocean. It's not all palm trees and, blue water and, seeing man of wars going by, but we have a lot more different, navigating is a lot different up here than anywhere else. Lobster pots, freighters, you have a lot of freighters where you are, going around them in the dark and watching them on AIS and,
commercial boats,
commercial boats.
draggers, a lot of draggers, stuff like that.
Yep. And that's the one thing. I mean, I got an advantage being a commercial fisherman. I know which way most of them are towing. My college roommate ran a lobster boat for a lot of years. So, I mean, when I was running a canyon runner, we had the biggest layup of all time. I knew where the gear was, he goes, tie right up. I don't care, and then you kick everyone else off. I'm sure Pete could tell you some good stories where, we tied up to the gear and we beat the fish senselessly, and all of my college roommates, because he's crazy, they fish in all kinds of weather. You just chase everyone off just to piss them off.
Yeah.
So, but it's a lot different, a lot more challenges to get over than, even though steaming 100 miles. So there's a lot of different layers that people don't realize. The fishing's the absolutely easiest part once you get there. It's actually getting there and figuring everything out, and hopefully it doesn't get rough. That's that, because you're there for the long haul. That could be the worst, the kiss of death, when you get there and like the wind changes and you're oh no.
In Ocean City, we have like we're not fishing those real long hauls typically, Mark, but there's just days it's going to be good, and you just know you're just going to take your ass kicking going there or back, but you just got to, you're like, it's going to be good, so let's go, So it's kind of, I feel like for me, and you're a commercial guy, so you're a different breed even than me. Like, if it's going to be really rough, I'll just be like, we're just not going to go. But sometimes, if we, especially if we got to go like 100 miles or something like that, but you start fishing 55, 60 miles and, it's going to blow up in the afternoon. Northwest here, get a cold front comes in the September, they're going to start snapping for a couple hours. They start acting like sailfish, and you're going to get your teeth kicked in coming home.
Yeah, that's it. You're going to get it one way or the other. My guys, they already know they're going to get it because I don't really care about weather and too much. I fish in big weather a lot, and I've actually, it's nice. I've trained the owner of the boat to fish in weather, and he knows now that we don't go on light and variable days. And the fishing in general is bad on light and variable. There's no current, there's no movement. It's like Nick going fishing on a Saturday with 5 knots of wind. Most likely it ain't going to happen. It's just not, you're setting yourself up for a disaster is what you're doing. You're going to struggle more mentally than, because you're going to hear guys catching them, and, you can't buzz over there and catch them or whatever your conditions are, but you kind of got to go on the off day. And, knowing your weather a little bit and fronts coming through. And sometimes, you're going to take it on we leave in a lot of times on Northwest. So like when you could barely untie the boat, where you got to everyone ready, and you got to jockey the boat back, get the stern off, and you got to be, ready to spin the boat around very, very quickly and, get out on Northwest, from Long Island, the way it's shaped like a fish. It's up on the beach. It's calm. Yeah. Obviously, the further you get offshore, you're going to get, gets rough. But a big Northwest up here, especially you get in the fall, you want to blow 30, 35, and then it drops to 0 as the sun goes down. So if I've done it over, my whole life, basically, is when to leave on the big weather, you beat everyone else out there, you're going to be 10 steps ahead. You're going to have the first crack at the fish, and that's a big part of it as well. Because the fish know, something I've thought about is the fish know the boat after a while. And I'm sure
that is especially, it seems like that is from anybody that does a lot of tuna fishing, people do absolutely believe that,
Oh yeah, I believe that. Yeah. I mean, and I saw it even sail fishing. I was right next to VJ the other day, and and he's like, "You're on again?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trolling around, just going like I'm tuna fishing, sail fishing." But it's sometimes they get zoned in on the boat. All fish do that. The first guy to get them gets them. And you rim rack them. You just whatever it is, the prop, whatever the harmonics of the boat, whatever the bait, your presentation. I don't know if that works so much, sail fishing with your kites, Nick. I'm sure there's some times where the little boat obviously is better than the big boat. in certain weather. You know what I mean? You could drive up on them.
Yep.
Or just the way the bait lays with the wind. Yeah, there's obviously something to it. You know, there's all this, the fishing, it's all, no matter what it is, it's all little things. It's not, everyone does the same, everyone's got the same hook leader, you know, same line. It's, you know, everyone thinks a lot more into that. And it's more little tiny little things and paying attention of what's going on. And, you know, you see one or two birds and, you know, having someone always watching, looking what's going on. One or two birds changes our whole day in the can.
See the birds with their heads in the water, looking at what's
paddling
going on.
around.
They do the little walk and then they put their head back in the water. That's when you fucking know.
That's when you know they're down there, you know, 70 feet, just, you know, moving around. They're your best friends, the entire, you know, just like a frigate, you know, any of that stuff. But it's all little things. That's no matter where you go. And you talk to any good captain, it's all, we all have the best stuff now. I mean, you're not going this far offshore. You're not running a boat. You have the best technology available, but you also have to go by instinct, which, you know, most people, you know, it's one thing, like I was saying in the beginning, something for anyone new coming onto the industry is try to go fishing as many different people as possible. You know, everyone, there's about 1,000 ways to do everything and everyone has their own way and it's always the same result. So that's a big part of it. And then just being out there and just, you know, it's definition of insanity, right? Doing something over and over and expecting a different result.
Well, fishing is the only thing that typically gives you a different result. You know?
It's definitely,
you can do the same thing and be like, oh, well, today's different, you know?
And then there's some days, I'm sure you guys know, some days you're just not your day.
You know it. I feel like I always know in the morning. I'm like, yes.
I look at the water. You bet. You know it. Anyone who's fished a lot, you look at the water and you look at the guys and I look at the crew and I'm like, this is going to be a disaster.
Like, what? We've been here for 20 minutes. I'm like, yeah, we should be 30 miles in a different direction.
You second, you know, when you're second guessing yourself and you're not relaxed and you're just going fishing. Yeah. You know, it's a lot. You know, because we're all fishing tournaments and we're all on edge and, you know, and it's hard to relax before doing it. I mean, you know, it's, I actually don't even go to some of the I send my crew now to the cabins. Yeah. I don't want to see anyone, you know, actually a couple of the bigger tournaments up here when Cookie Murray was up here a lot, I would literally just go me and him would just sit inside, have something to eat. And we go to bed early because I don't want to talk to anyone. I know my plan. I know where I got to be. And that's a big part of it. But then, you know, there's obviously always dock talk and this guy and that guy, but you know, your first instinct's your best instinct, especially when you're fishing 100 miles, you know, you have an advantage, Nick, like where you are. If you make a left when you should have made a right, you could kind of counter react that very, very quickly. Yeah. But I've made a couple big moves like that on the Canyon Runner where I've moved 120 miles in a night. Yeah. You know, I had to jog and writing down on like a notepad of how much fuel I'm going to have left is not really the, when you're 25 years old, actually what I want to do. Yeah. You know, I was like praying. I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. I'm going to run out of fuel pulling into a tournament. How embarrassing. But, you know,
I'll tell you, they're making the boundaries bigger and bigger nowadays where they're making it so if you do make a bad turn, you're out of it.
Yeah, if you make a real bad turn down there, you're still 80 miles from where you need to be.
Oh, it's now like these next two tournaments now. I mean, the boundaries from Stewart to, you know, south end of Miami, you know, so it's like you go the wrong way, you're not catching.
No, you just go home and just regroup the next day, or just but you got to go
for daily the next day. You know,
how do you do that, Nick? Do you stage out of a certain place, or do you just in the morning you just wake up and you fucking go?
Yeah, I mean, no, we try to keep the place obviously closest to where we're trying to be fishing. You know, like even this week we have a big boundary tournament. You know, typically
what's a typical boundary, Nick?
Like this week I think it's like somewhere off Loran Tower, and then it's like on the south end of like Triumph.
That's like
a fucking big boundary.
How far is that? It's insane.
It's big, and then the JJ the week after is even bigger. Yeah. I mean,
probably it's like 110 or 120, probably somewhere in there.
God.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot. Like you said, you know, then you gotta wherever you start from, you could steam wherever you want, but wherever you got to pull in, you might got to worry about your fuel because you're hammering down at 5,000 to get there, whatever. But law of diminishing returns, if you're not going to be there and catch enough to warrant making a move like that, you might be better off keeping the rods in the water
Be impatient. Sometimes you just gotta freaking take your medicine. You fucked up, and we got to make the best and catch a couple to keep morale up and stay in it. You make the right move. You make the right move the next day. There's couple that you might catch on the first day. They might come in handy.
Absolutely.
That's where our fishing's a little bit obviously different because we're fishing. Even our a lot of tournaments are 2 days. Some are overnight. So you could blow it in the first day and you make a power move in the dark and you chug somewhere. And
how do you do, like, when you got, like, does that boat hold enough fuel, Mark, or do you guys on a tournament like that, when you feel like you might need to do that, you carry extra fuel?
Somehow I got lucky and I have one of the 52s that holds probably the most amount of fuel humanly possible. We hold about 1,400 gallons and I only burn 80 an hour at 30 knots. So I have almost I have a monster range. So I've never really worried. After basically steaming the boat from Florida to New York and doing straight shots and, straight to Charleston or straight to Moorhead, you know how far your boat can push. But you could make the wrong turn, and you got to move 80, 90 miles in one shot to be on them. But all it takes is one pass, which, I'm starting to talk to tournament directors that our fishing has changed so much that, catching a big eye used to be kind of a big thing, Nick. Like one person would get one like 250. It's not like, and then nowadays it's some tournaments, there's 150 fish caught. I mean, the scales open until 2 a.m. So it's not about who's, a little more skill. It's who's getting lucky and which one ate the last skippy in the morning, or which one ate a yellowfin. So fishing is becoming more of, I would say, a team sport up here, like you guys have. It's a fluid, even white marlin fishing. It's a team sport as it's ever going to be. Catching sails, how a crew can put it under. Anyone can catch a big fish, but who can catch the most consistently is a better reward. And most of the time, it's you look at tournaments that happen in the Northeast, it's not the top boats that win the big money. It's like, because I've lost a lot of tournaments. I lost the White Marlin Open by a pound. I've got, you've lost a lot of tuna tournaments. I lost $500,000 by 3 pounds. So it's just because this fish didn't eat a couple of squid. It's just bad luck on that day or whatever it was. But it's definitely changed a lot, in that aspect, which I would hope some tournaments would adapt to that. It's not who can catch the card on the river, but who can catch them every day is a more, that's the way all your tournaments basically work down south, Nick, right? It's just who could be consistent, and consistency is key, rather than who's, everyone could have a lucky or catch a big fish, or something just piles on and, gets tail wrapped, which is what I can't stand.
I drive like the White Marlin Open is a perfect example. Like we were so close to winning the top boat for the numbers, like top boat. We missed out on time, and I was like, that was a lifelong dream to be one of the top boat in the White Marlin Open, because there's 450 boats in it. But everybody was like, oh, well, what did you win for money? And we're like, not that very much money. And they're like, oh, well, those guys won. Those people who won it by accident, won a couple $1 million. And I can't even remember who won the big ones. I can't say that, but you can win some of these tournaments, and that's the draw. I mean, up there, that's kind of the draw, is you can win it, on accident, or, by a big stroke of luck, I mean, I don't care how many, the Billfishers first year ever caught a fish that they weighed and held this year. They've been catching white marlins out of Ocean City since the 80s,
No, look at the top 3 blue marlin guys. I mean, you got Walt catching a fish, Harmstead, one of the best in the game. Fucking guy you never, ever, and I fished alongside him for a lot of years, you'd never count him out. First day, the white marlin, he goes out, blue marlin, calls it in, 10 minutes in. Uploaded 600 pounder. The guy in the Wolverine, I mean,
oh my God! Could you
that's
imagine
that's the guy that I don't, Walt, whatever, 600, and everything's beatable, and you know that, and we all know that.
Those guys were docked. Those guys were docked right next to me, man.
I pretty much would start. I would give up and just go right to golf, like full-time golf. I would do something totally radical, because that is just terrible luck. I mean, the fact that John. But it goes to the fact it's not over till it's over. It's 3:29 and 30 seconds. And, there's a certain players always in the game. People are always hard charging that you do not want to have, the ability to catch the card, and that's John got the bite and he's going to hold it. He's got the same situation, and boom, pops the grander on the last day.
Unbelievable.
I mean, very happy for him, but I feel bad for those guys at the Wolverine catching unbelievable fish, biggest fish and lose on a 900 is just, it goes to show you though, it happens. Everything's beatable and everyone is beatable, and someone could have a bad day, and that's just poor luck though. I mean, I felt, you just looked at it like, I don't even want the money. Just get this whole thing happen. I don't care if it's $100,000, just burn it or give it to charity. I wouldn't even want it. I would just want to be like, I want to go home. I want my pillow. I don't want to talk to anybody. And, and that's a big part of it, that everything is, and every crew, and that's why it's always good to have a good crew. And, you got to have the same guys, and it's not over till it's over. And it's a fluid machine. And some days it works out and some days it's not, when it's your time. But when you put a very good tournament team together, Nick, and everyone's got their role, everyone's got their strong point, and it's about how the fluid machine works in the scheme of it.
Yeah.
But it's, that typical situation, I'm sure you were up there, right?
They were docked right next to me, the Wolverine. I was like, John's a guy I look up to, he's had and I used to work on the boat. He's had a big influence on me and my career, but I was heartbroken for those guys. So I was like, man, I said when we pulled in, and I was like, you guys, congrats, man. You guys just won this tournament. And man, I feel bad saying that now. Yeah,
you feel that of all the people that could possibly catch it, the one guy is you got to catch the right one at the right time. And there was no failure. There was, the fact that he caught a grander in the Atlantic and that he killed it and on the right day, right time, and all fluid. It wasn't it was meant to be. It's meant to be.
Speaking about the blue marlins, Mark, tell us about, you have some pretty good blue marlin fishing up there on the right time, and the right conditions. And tell us about that sort of stuff.
I can tell you this. If I was fishing the World Cup, I'd be up here in about 2.5 seconds.
Yeah.
I personally, I was 17, I worked on a local charter boat, and this is where the love of big fish start happening. We catch a lot of longfin albacore, Nick, which is 40, 50 pound tuna.
Yeah.
And when they're around, there's a lot of blue marlins around. For some reason, they're like the fat kid with the gumdrop, and the M&Ms. They're trying to eat them all in one shot. You'll see the albies start jumping out of the air with their wings out. And we hooked an albie on a charter, and this guy was working for Chris Williams, who worked in Saipan for a lot of years, so he killed a lot of blue marlins. And all of a sudden the charter's reeling, goes, "Oh, Mark, the reel's broken. The line's going out." And I'm like, "Oh, here we go. This kind of a charter." And literally the thing is just getting incinerated. The thing's going so fast, the clicker shuts off, and then it just stopped. The reel just stops. I'm like, "Oh, well, we got clipped or whatever happened, So we reel in a couple of tunas. He's just winding in the line. And I'm like watching. I'm not even paying attention. And I just hear Chris start. He couldn't even speak. It was just loud noise. He was like, I'm like, what is wrong? And I'm looking up at him and I'm like, what is wrong? He's like, wait, do you see this thing? And it's just a blue one with the tail. He was choking to death. Every bit, I'll be the one person. I don't want to call 1,000, but I've caught a couple of 900s, and this thing was one of the scariest things I've ever had to grab a leader on. And I was literally shaking. I was 17 years old. We have every gaff and harpoon. We threw 3 gaffs into it, and then it came alive. And the scene of Jaws, we were on a 44 Enrique, which is a pretty solidly built boat. The corner dipped, the fish opened up the 10-inch AFCO, did that Guy Harvey Black Marlin picture, half air out on the gaff, dart rips out, slices back open, and gone. And I'm like, no way that just happened. Every bit of 130, 135 inch.
Wow.
Because this guy used to, but we have a lot of big ones. I mean, Tyler Andressen's got the record. He went out, he caught an 800 pounder, 780.
Yeah.
But we see, going back to tomorrow, the blues we see are we call them New York blues. There are only 3 sizes here in New York. They're 200, 500, 1,000. That's it. Yeah. There's no other sizes. I'm sure you've heard it on the radio. It's quite comical. Everyone's 500's real 250, and everyone's 1,000's a real 5. But there are a lot of hogs that live here, because I think they come and eat the tunas. Yeah. That's what the long liners tell us. And there's a lot of big ones, and anyone who caught a lot of big blue marlin know that the big ones, obviously you need big food, but they're always on that change, like that dirty water, not the oceanic blue water that everyone goes. There's obviously some there, but where you have that change and where all those tunas are, there's always a couple real big ones. But I also think no one targets them up by me.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go plug fishing. I'm sure it'd take you, if you fish 3 days, days, you're going to see them. We have a couple buoys out by us that, that for a lot of years there was skippies on them, like these big skippies. And we kind of fish like Costa Rica, where you put the planer out, 3 drone spoons, catch your skippies, bridle them quick. Damon Sacco was doing it. He caught 3 or 4 nice big blue marlins, real ones, 500 pounders, 600 pounders, slow trolling skippies. But there's a time and a place for them. For some reason, whatever, the moon lines up and the fish come to the bank, because it's such an open ocean down by, it's compared to you, as good as boats are, a lot of boats is bad, but when you're by yourself also, it's not good either.
That's there's a large element of luck when you get out there by yourself, and you're really, if you're really throwing the dart, as they say around here, like there's a large element of like, you're going out there by yourself and you're going to get very, very lucky to find what you might find. The thing is, out there when you're doing that, you might find some decent fishing and you're like, oh, this is good, but you don't know, 2 miles away it could be friggin' wide open.
Yeah, well, that's a big problem out by us is, obviously the Hudson Canyon, there's a lot of boats. Down by you, there's a lot of boats. Up by me, there's only a few guys that go looking, and me and a couple guys, and me and my buddy Teddy Prager, we try to always go together. Like we always have a buddy boat. We're always 2-3 miles. We're further enough away, but we're close enough away that we can make a move. Especially tuna fishing, but we're both looking for the same thing. And at least you're out there when you're fishing that far, you want to be on top of, on top of them. But there's plenty of blue ones. And I would be, if the World Cup wasn't so early, obviously on July 4th, it's just a bad time right then. But somewhere in hydro or oceanographers and anyone's tell you, Miles Daly, any of the guys that live out there at Cookie have caught a lot of big ones. And there's some oceanic creatures that live down there. Where you have a lot of northern current, you have cold water influx. So along with the Gulf Stream eddy, you're setting yourself up for a nice pad diagram of, where you're going to put the big ones.
Yeah.
But it goes back to you when you asked about other marlin stuff, you don't see the numbers for some reason. Regardless or not, even people are fishing for them. You don't hear people catching a lot of them.
Yeah.
Not big ones.
Or getting bothered by them.
Yeah, blue marlins and a marlin ends in a Z. Because obviously the accent, and, we got these blue marlins over here, Mark, or whatever, white, these marlins, they don't even know what they are. They're blue or white. They're all the same. There's at least 3 or 4 black marlins that are caught up here each summer. It's pretty comical. But, but you listen, you try to go through, not everyone is, private boat fishing. There's a lot of beginning guys. And so they don't really know what they're looking at, but they know it's a marlin. So you don't even know. Be like, oh, did you see anything? No, just the stick was following the spreader bar, and the thing got tangled in it and, hung himself to death. And they end up fighting it for hours and, oh, we finally got it, so it's good. But between that and our daytime sword fishing is probably, as good as Texas is, we have no current, Nick. We fish with 2 pounds. You can fish 2 pounds of lead if you want, 3 pounds, put 5 rods. You want to put 10 rods out? Put 10 rods out. It's insane. And when they bite, and once we have a couple spots, just like you have, but it's just driving and putting the bait in the right spot. But a couple of the canyon spots that we have, they go year after year because that's where the squid lay and that's where the good mud is. And all you got to do is land a sinker on the bottom and just the rod laps over. I mean, it's, it's another thing that will wipe off our face of the earth.
They're wiping them out right now down here, man. They're crushing.
They don't. It's something that technology. All of us will agree. Technology has far exceeded fishing. That's
it's gonna.
Especially certain things like that.
Yeah.
4 pounds of lead, and you just got to put the boat in gear and put anywhere. You don't have to rig a bait. I mean, you just crimp it on, and you can put a worm down, literally like a hoagie or and that's where there's a lot of tide, and you still catch one.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's but the fact that they're there, and we have a good multiverse fishery in that.
The longliner, we used to a couple of years ago. We had great daytime sword fishing. Guys would get them, and the longliners figured out how to put their stuff on the bottom during the day, and now it's different.
Yeah, well, they know how to deep set with line shooters, and I'm not going to say that going commercial fishing, I have an advantage of what's going on.
Yeah.
A couple of longliners were watching me this summer and like, Mark, is that you? I go, yeah, hold on. We're just pulling on another one. And like the thing jumps and it's like, you hooked another one? I go, yeah, it's basically, anytime we put a bait anywhere near the bottom,
I mean, that's crazy if you think about how the technique of sword fishing is literally dropping one bait down in the abyss. I relate it to striped bass fishing, Mark. It's like, when you're jigging on striped bass, how thick do they have to be on your screen to be getting bit constantly? Like how many are down there? Like when you drop your shit down and you're just like, oh, we got a bite already, you do it again. It's like, how thick are they? And you can't imagine. I mean, I'm sure they're well adapted to it, but to drop a single bait down to the abyss like that and have a fish find it is incredible
in 30 seconds sometimes.
Yeah. I do it out here. It's incredible. Like 1,700 feet, I'm gonna put it down tight, 200 or 300 pounder come up jumping,
How many does it go by before it gets to it? I'm sure there's a lot. It's the same thing. We catch a lot of tunas on live squids. How many swim right up to the thing? Like, oh my God, how many fish are going to be charging right after this thing? Yeah. But it's, it goes to show you it works everywhere in the world, and there's a lot more than people know until they try something. But unfortunately, left by us, there's no tide, so no current at all. I mean, literally, some days it's like you drift at 0.1.
That's incredible.
So all you got to do is worry about stretching the bait out and doing it. And it's pretty funny. I was sorting 2 weeks ago down off Jupiter, and Stetson was right outside me, and I was inside of him. And he goes, "You on again?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just trying something I do at home, with the big boat, because it's easier sometimes with certain boats to back up into the tide, and you keep the rod. You could keep the revs at a minimal. If you fish a lot of lead. Like at home, some days we fish a lot of lead, but we fish in a small area, so we just have to back right up to it quick." And he's like, You're going the wrong way. I go, yeah, I know that, but certain things that, people don't try certain things, and we had a bite instantly. Caught a pomfret, we pulled another one off. Nice. But it's, it goes to show that there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat, of no matter where you're going fishing in the world. But it looks like you got a very successful boat show with the clothing.
Yeah. Pretty well.
Yeah, it's definitely a brand that's catching on, and, promoting not just about like fishing and, wearing something that looks good, but that, you have more involvement in the fisheries and, of what actually all this is, and being more professional than anything else.
Yeah.
It's, not looking like a giant mahi is, is pretty important.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
You heading to the DR, Ant?
Yeah. We're leaving hopefully the end of the first week of March till the end of May. Which, looking at the sat shots, I know we're gonna be like racing to get back here. I just know it. It's gonna.
I'll see you April 15th at sunset. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's gonna be good, man.
Yeah,
and we're gonna be down there to the end of May, and then I'm sure I hope we'll have good fishing, and we need to get out and do something different. To learn a little bit.
Anthony's been going from Cap Cana straight to Maryland.
I got the dude. If I 10 knotted it, I could stop and I could run to Abacos and leave Abacos and make it with the amount of fuel I hold in this boat and how efficient it is. So
I already bumped up my my yard period a little bit. And I could already tell. I mean, I'm in New York now. I'm flying back to Florida tomorrow. But 2 days ago, it was, snowing and 20 degrees. And today was 65 degrees up here and warm and sunny. And there's birds chirping. And I'm like, it just keeps getting pushed up every year. We have a shorter time of winter-esque. And it's just, look at your fishing. It was cold for a week or 2 weeks in Florida. Now it's back to that standard 78, 80 degrees. Here comes the south wind, very weak north cold fronts, which I'm sure you absolutely despise. It's just, you want it rough and cold and miserable. And
we don't get it anymore.
No. Even when I was there, I just remember it being like, I used to hate sail fishing because I'm like, who would actually want to sit out here? And it's like 10 foot blowing east at 30. And then this is enjoyable.
That's the thing. Like everybody would get excited when those conditions came about. And I just remember being in Stewart and Palm Beach when we used to go down there, and I would always find a ride. I was fortunate enough to find some rides for some tournaments, and everybody was like, oh yeah, it's going to be, it's going to be right. And I'm like, it's cold, man. Like I was like, the guys it's not really that cold, Mark, but these guys in Florida, like when they go fishing when it's cold, they're ready. They're like, when you,
a couple weeks ago, when it was that cold, it was like 30 degrees. I still put shorts on. People don't know what cold is. When you fish up here in North Atlantic, even in, I commercially gill net up to, January, and you got no one's seen cold. When you make 3-4 inches ice and you steam in a mile, that's cold.
Yeah.
When you see the opposite of fog, which is sea smoke, that's real weather.
Yeah.
That's the opposite. Not, it's going to be 45 degrees. It's going to warm up to 62.
Hey, we get sea smoke, but it's just different because our water's a lot warmer.
Yeah, it's blazing hot. And I'm like, I thought it was comical. I'm like, he's for real. Come on. You have a couple adverse conditions, like it's really that, but it is rough. I will give you that. When you fish off Florida sail fishing and you're fishing up on that edge and it's currents ripping, and it could get real. And it's not like big, scary rough. It's just annoying, big rough. It's just like, just trying to keep the boat, driving along and, trying to keep everything fishing right. It's more of a pain in the ass, not like a scary rough. That's what most people, you're only at most 10 miles from home, from an inlet or something. So even if you 10 knot it at home, you'll be fine.
But that leads you to go fishing in shitty weather. Like that's like the.
Don't worry. I hope it blows 40 because I'll be right next to you next. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's the one thing of like I've trained my boss because it's gonna blow 25. It ain't gonna be that bad. And that's good. And I like that now because there's no shocker of when we're going fishing or I have a pretty open schedule during the summer, so we just go. Conditions look right, and we have a window, and we're going. I'm not waiting for anybody. I want to be the first one there. I don't, I'm, running that old bull, running the canyon runner. You have to go. You're just on a bus schedule, and just, you gotta just go and deal with some days, and some days it's rough, some days it's calm, and other days it's, basically, board shorts and t-shirts, and some days it's parkas and grunden.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, what else? You look a little tired, pal. Not you, Anthony.
Nick, yeah, I know Nick's been through the ringer this week, man.
Yeah, you gonna sleep a little tonight, and then you gotta. You gonna fish tomorrow or?
No, not tomorrow. Probably Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay, that's good.
Got all your baits ready, Nick?
And it's gonna be calm, so at least we got that going for us. Even though I don't like it calm, but
no, I mean that's the one. You're like me. That's where always. Well, I want it rough because that's an advantage that someone, and even you take advantage of that. When you're fishing a lot of boats and certain people can't handle conditions. And that's what makes, that's why, we do a lot of seminars and stuff like that up here in New York, and everyone wants to know like the big secret, like what is the big secret of catching tunas? And it's just going fishing and dealing with different conditions, and you're going to be rewarded eventually. And it pays off. You're going to take a shellacking at some point, but that's the one thing I could, teach young guys, and I have a couple of young guys that come with me every year, and they're like, "Oh, it's going to blow 20." I'm like, "That's not bad. It's only going to blow only 20. It's not going to blow 30. It's not really dangerous."
Look at the bright side, man. It's not blowing 30.
Yeah, no, I always say it could always be worse. Yeah. It could always be. I mean, obviously, there's the boat is number one, and everyone's safety is number one. But if you're in diminishing returns where you're pulling hooks and stuff like that, and you're still getting your bites. It's, I'm sure you're there too, Nick. Like there's certain days it's so much of a struggle to keep them on, and not break spars and not, it's a hard task. White marlin fishing, the same thing. You got to time your turns and, you not dip a rigger, which, being a 52-foot boat, my riggers are pretty low. I'm always a little nervous about dipping a rigger on a turn. So that's one disadvantage of not having a bridge boat, and not seeing. So a couple of rough days, it's tough. So I'll take my boat. He asked about the Viking, but I'll take my Viking.
It's a good boat. It'll break you before you break it. That's for sure.
I've rebuilt it. I know every little in and out of that thing, and there's been a lot of proven ones. And it's certain years. Obviously, everyone knows certain boats are just good boats. You know what I mean? There's certain lengths or whatever. There's the physics of it. And I think that's just one of the good ones. It's just the harmonics of the way it trolls or the way it is. It's not special oils and it's not sonars. It's certain boats like we talked about, like the canyon runner. Doesn't matter who's running it. It's just that thing has always been a really fishy boat for a lot of years.
Yeah.
So, you just put the one engine in gear and you start trolling and stuff just piles on. So, But what else do you guys want to know about up here? What do you think everyone else wants to know?
I guess the one question we do ask is kind of a constant is, what keeps you running? Well, is there a day that sticks in your mind that like keeps you running all like doing that sort of nonsense where you're running 100 miles each way that, just keeps you, when you think about why, because we all think about, when you're getting your ass kicked 100 miles from shore, you're like, why am I out here? And then you got to go back to that day and be like, that's why I'm out here. Did you have a certain day that kind of keeps you going? I know you've had a lot of them.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I have usually one day a year that sticks out in I've had a lot of good trips.
You can come in here, Nate.
And yeah, he could join in. I've had a lot of good trips, obviously, but I have an advantage over most. I'm out more than anyone, I get to go fishing a lot. And this year, I have two good ones this year where, we caught 37 big eyes in a day.
Good God.
With 4 guys, which was me, my boss, my mate, and one of my good friends. And, if I'd known about it and we stopped halfway through the day because my guys were tired and we went daytime and we caught a 200-pounder on the second bounce. So I remember I just hit the button and I looked at it. I'm like, all right, Gatorade's over. Let's go. And then we went, I fought a couple, which I don't even like fighting fish.
Yeah.
It was nonstop. We just found big piles of them offshore, and we only kept 10 of them. And we did some tagging, which was good for research. You don't have to kill every single thing. It's a bad New York quality that most people.
Sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
But we had a day like that. And then we fished a tournament this summer where I struggled. The Tri-State. I struggled all day. I caught one big yellowfin. Fishing happened to be terrible. Was just not good. It got slick calm, and I made a bad call on where to go, but we ended up catching one nice yellowfin out of it. And I was second guessing myself, and I tried to lay down for an hour just to kind of get myself together. And, I'm like, I just kept making a poor choice, kind of trying to chase something that wasn't happening. And I'm literally wrapping it up, and I'm coming out of the tower, and I'm like, just kind of disgusted with myself because I'm very hard on myself. If I'm not first, you're not first, you're last. I was very, just the way my dad brought me up, and just as commercial fishing, because if you don't catch, you're not making any money.
Yeah.
So I'm just disgusted. I'm sick. I'm like, this sucks. Like, what a fucking embarrassing thing this is. You know what I mean? Like, and then there's other people that look up, obviously, Mark, or these guys are going to win, or, it just doesn't matter what port you're going to. And I'm climbing out of the tower. And the kid, Tommy Howd, who worked for me on the Canyon Runner, and he runs a boat now too as well. He's like, tree. I'm like, what? And I didn't even see it because I was just walking out of the tower, and the tree goes literally like rolling down the side of the boat. And I'm like, oh my God, it's now 11:48. I looked at the clock. At 12, I had to get going before I make the 4 p.m. weigh-in. And I'm like, oh God, you know what I mean? Here he comes, 30-pounder comes flying out, a big dolphin. And I'm like, my boss, like, he gets an insta bite and it just like, he eats it, pulls the ringer swivel off. I'm like, no way that just happened. Now my voice is about 12 octaves higher, which sounds like I'm going through puberty. I'm screaming at everybody, because I'm like, oh, these, and they call me, there's a nickname. They all call me Mahi Mark. And, so I'm going crazy. The thing's swimming around and they're hooking all the bailers. And I'm like, what the fuck are you guys? I'm losing my mind. I'm like, that's it. I completely lose my shit. I go downstairs. I go in the cabin. I grab my own rod, like a personal rod that I have. We have unlimited tackle, obviously, on my boat. I grab my own rod. I grab a leader. I just tie a hook on. I grab a squid head. I yell at my buddy Jimmy. I go, hook the bailer right there. He goes, no, I'm going to hook the big one. I'm like, shut the fuck up and just listen to me. Hook the bailer. And my boss is trying to flip it to him. I flip the squid, obviously, away. Here comes the bull, eats it, whack him. I just hold the spool. And I go, Tommy, please, mother of God, just gaff this thing. Stroked it, jump. We get him in the boat. I literally jump on top of it. We just got him, put the boat. I go, let's go. That's the winner right there. Hammer down. And we ended up winning, another 60 grand off it.
Wow.
So even in the big tuna tournament, you still pay,
Yeah.
You kind of, you don't stop until the last minute. And like I watched you the other day, Nick, you know what I mean? I watched religiously in the last hour because that's the time to watch. Just like a football game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, who's going to make the power move here? And that's something that all of us have in common, of charging. So, I don't quit till the last rod's out of the water.
Yeah.
But now I'm looking, I'm like, oh God, now we're going to hammer down. You know what I mean? So now go rip it in. And we had a 100-pound yellowfin. And under normal circumstances, in any tournament, in any yellowfin division, 100-pounder in the Northeast is a nice one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, 60-something inches, like, perfect. We're going to win some. This is looking good now. And of course, there was one other guy who caught like 120 pounds, random weight. So I was just like, God, I can't win like the one fish I could actually catch a lot of, and then we end up winning on a mahi, so it's, sometimes, it works out, and that's, but if you go hard all the way to the end, it's going to pay off.
Yeah. Good things happen.
And always pay it forward. The one thing I always, not sure you guys know, like we do a lot of seminars and stuff up here in Northeast, and I've always got opposition from people in our industry, like, why are you helping people out, and why do you do this, and why are you showing them our tricks, and and I always pay things forward. Everyone along the way has helped, and I'm sure you would tell you, everyone that you've learned something from, you learn something from every single person, and it's not about kind of old school mentality of everything's a secret, because there are no secrets anymore. There's InReach, sat phones. People have, obviously we have the internet offshore now. So it's like you can upload a picture to Instagram fishing out there, which has happened before where, I've called my wife on the phone. She goes, I already know how big it is. I go, how do you even know that? He goes, someone uploaded a picture you pulling on one.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, it's a nice one. So I'll see at the scale. But so it's something, but it's, one thing, like I said, always pay it forward, always help everyone out, and something that we said in the beginning, you're going to be on the other end, just because something, it might help someone else's day. And, Nick, you and I are the same age. It's, get more kids involved in fishing, and, no one gave us, a layup, we were brought up very soon. I was never really handed the layup, I've had to work my way up, and, spend a lot of time offshore, and I always feel just pay it back, and you're only as good as the ones that teach you.
Yeah.
Which is important. And Pete, Pete will tell you that too. I've yelled at Pete a couple times.
I don't yell at Pete.
I'll yell. You just told him, like Mark said I could yell, but you got to know yelling and teaching is a fine line, but I have a lot, I just go bonkers. I just can't handle, but and then everyone yells back at me, and it's fine.
We have the headset. We don't have the headset. I wear a headset. It goes one way. It goes from me to the speaker, and that's it. We don't have, there's not a, I mean, they
That's
might
not
say
fair.
they might say something, but I don't care. I'm beyond that.
Yeah.
So
we don't need headsets on my boat. We'll just say that. My boat's like, oh, get the headsets out. I go, you really think I need a headset? You see a 200-pound big eye come crashing across the spread, you won't need a headset. It's
they don't really work for me either.
You don't need them, Nicky.
I end up blowing someone's eardrum.
Like right short, know your other right short, you don't see them, and sometimes you don't want to yell, but it's just you're just as excited. And that's what I tell everyone. I'm just excited as the first time when I went fishing when I was 10 years old. You can't sleep before a trip. I'm sure you're just looking to get out of Wrightsville right now. Like, let me just start fishing. Like, what fads am I going to go to? Like,
I don't even know where the fads.
At the mouth.
The first blue marlin I see, I'm going to get through. That's for sure.
It could be 150. You might as well think it's 900.
Yeah.
I'm flying in, and that's definitely a cool place.
Yeah.
I was in Costa Rica last week. We caught a couple blue ones out of a panga, my buddy's boat. And, it's always fun how other people do it all over the place. So. Yeah. But like I said, Nick, you have always an open invite, and
man, I gotta do it. I'll make the trip.
You gotta just do a Northeast tour, Nicky. Just come up for August, September, something like that.
Yeah, when it's slow and there's not, and it's your off time,
Yeah. This year will be the year I'll do it.
Come on up, man.
Bring your wife. For showing the Hamptons, you'll probably have to move here for the summers. So it's the best place and the worst place. Yeah. So that's what I say to everybody. It's the best. The fishing's getting better and better, but you got to go 100 miles. But it's also cold here in the winter. So, but South Florida's nice though. It's growing on me a lot lately. So
Yeah, we gotta get it to start growing on Anthony here soon.
I love it. I love the weather. I love the fishing. It's just the general. I come from Ocean City is a small town, and I'm like it's it gets a little nuts in the summer, but I can kind of keep to myself in the summer. I'm only care about what goes on around Sunset Marina in the summer.
That's the way I am here. I have a 5-minute drive from my house. I go from my house to the marina, and that's it. I'm a small town also, but it gets really busy, and it's dealing with South Florida traffic.
I can't do it, man.
New York traffic's absolutely fucking terrible.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah, it's just as bad. It's like being stuck, Nick, from like probably exit 4 to about exit 40, like your whole life. Just getting absolutely about 4:30 on a Friday. So. But that's about it, fellas.
Yeah, man.
Anything else you want to end with?
No, man. Dude, that was great. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. That was good stuff.
Of course. Well, good luck this weekend, Nick.
Man. Good luck, Nick.
Thank you. And
I'll make sure I'll be on the northern fence. I'll make sure I'm north of the Loran Tower. So I'll be out fishing.
Oh, give me a call, man. You never know. I'll make that 60-mile run or something.
Yeah, you could, but you figure it out. You always do. So,
all right,
Anthony, have a safe travel.
Thanks, man. I got to get your number so I can keep tabs on what's going on up there. You see 5 or 10 white marlins in a day. I know I got to be when that stuff gets within range.
I'll be make sure you guys know. You guys, you just got to be ready.
Anthony says that to every guest.
Yeah, does he?
Well, the last couple
dialed in, right?
Well, the last guy, I think Dean Newt. It was Dean then Newt. So we had Dean on a couple episodes ago, and he's always been nice. Like you got to call and interrogate him because he's not like he's either so tired or he's kind of. Where I'm also talking about marlins that he ain't that interested in. And I'm like, hey man, because I'll hear like a secondhand reporter like the Canny Runner does their their tuna thing, and then you hear like, oh man, they also saw like a dozen white marlins and nobody did anything about it. And I'm like, well, I'll come up there and fucking do something about it, Yeah. And he put me on, back when we had the 56, he put me on some really good fishing up there. We ran up there one day and we ran in the Manasquan, picked Pete up, and we ran out there and we had a really great weekend. And that's something, I'm confident that, there's something to that water that comes from the north. By the time he gets to Ocean City, it's different.
I think it just collects them as it comes down.
Yeah, that's
what I think.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense that I have the best conditions possible when the edge first hits the bank.
Yeah.
And we don't even see them. You can put a teaser out, you don't see them,
Yeah.
But I also think the tunas are so voracious now.
Yeah, they beat them.
They're not. They might be there, but you could be getting covered up with the elephants.
Yeah,
and they're only there when you set back out quick and you get jammed up. I mean, Newt, we was up by. He caught a couple days, 3 or 4, but not. He thought he was going to light it up. I'm sure too. He's like, "Oh, this looks great," and I'm like, "Dude, it ain't the same," And him and I are fishing alongside each other, and it's just when you think it's going to get rolling, it doesn't put together. But something happens as the water.
I would agree with that theory that it kind of just as it rolls down, it kind of collects.
It collects them, and then they know to feed. You catch a couple, but I also think there's a lot of fish that go inshore up by me.
Yeah.
30 fathoms, 40 fathoms, 50 fathoms, down off Nantucket. That
some crazy cold water. Like,
they like the cold water.
Yeah.
That's the most overlooked thing. People think cold water is bad. Cold water in the summertime is great.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to have your food. People, it's not always in the hot water. It's just a very misconception of.
Yeah. I've always wanted to do that Nantucket thing. I don't know how consistent that is, but.
It is. There's a couple guys every year that catch 10, 12, but it's, very, very timing. The water eddy just has to come in off hydro or Veach just right. So it comes inside to the hole there. And when it sits in the hole, obviously, anywhere down there, it's off Nantucket. They set up in there, but they're only there for a little while. It's them, some mahis, some wahoos, and then the conditions fade out and they just vaporize.
I got you.
And they steam back offshore. And then they steam the U basically. And, they just
ideally.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Or they skip over, wherever they're going to go. So, but all right, fellas.
Cool. Thanks, Mark.
Appreciate it, man. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.